Hey everybody, welcome to Habitat Now. I'm your host Aaron Shea, and it's an honor to have Geoffrey Bowton join us from Penland. We're going to learn about his life, career, and work over the last year since he was a winner in last year's NGG presentation, one of four winners. This will be the last NGG presentation. We've kind of moved on from this project, and it's been an incredible time visiting artists from around the world that are pushing medium in their own unique style, and I hope this project gets reborn in some way in the future. It's been a lot of fun meeting so many new talented artists from around the world, and I hope to, continue pushing their careers into the future because everybody who's participated in NGG over the last, I would say, with the 4 years, has been a really important part of the glass art movement, and I've watched them become leaders and pioneers in this community. So, all right, with that being said, I'm going to ask you, is my screen sharing, Jeffrey, so you can see it? Because last time I did this, it didn't work.
Yeah, go for a
Okay,
share
all right.
here.
No, I'm not you, me. Are you seeing my
Oh,
screen right
I
now?
I do see your screen, yeah.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you for letting me know. So, we do these Zooms every Saturday at usually the same 1 o'clock on Saturday every week, visiting artists from around the world. So, we'll keep doing them as long as we enjoy doing them, and you guys join us, which is always an honor to have you. Up in the gallery is the solo show of Dimitri Athanopoulos and Dean Benson. It is an incredible experience to see these installation of leaves on the walls of the gallery. They came and installed 9 pieces. I think we sold five of them so far, and there's three commissions in the can. So there's so much to see. The work is incredible. It's a once in a lifetime because I've never seen so many works by the artists on display. Come visit us and see it in person. We're gearing up for Glass Coast Weekend, which is going to be early this year, January 9th through 12th. We're getting people who are signing up. We got a home tour lined up in St. Petersburg for the first time. We've switched the plan around. We're going to be having a toast with our great friend Barbara Bash at the Ringling College, demonstration by Richard Royal. So you're invited to come and be a VIP for our event. It's $2.99 per person. It barely covers the costs. It even covers the cost of the attendees, but we want you to be there and have a glass experience with us. So there's so many people that are coming. Look at this list of artists that are coming for the show: Martin Blank, Amber Cohen, Michael Janis, Lucasi, Lucy Lyons, Richard Royal, Demetra and Dean, Tolan Sand, Thomas Schoon, Martin Blank, and then Nancy Callan. It's going to be a fun time, so plan on being there. So I digress now back into the topic. It's a great opportunity to catch up on Geoffrey's career. We've had some amazing sales and donations of work, and it's been so much fun. Say hey, Geoffrey, to everybody.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Like Aaron was saying, the NGG was a great opportunity for me to just kind of get into like the glass world, kind of see some of these artists from around the world at these glass events that he hosts at Habitat. So I've been really fortunate to be a part of the family and have opportunities to share work like today. So it's been, it's one of those challenges. How do you broadcast these things? Reach through social media, talk with folks. So it's really an important thing for I think where my perspective is coming from to kind of have a larger broadcast of this veteran experience post-military. And this is kind of like a dissection of me sorting through my life by using art as those tools and devices to help me understand. So I'll just start sharing my screen here.
Yeah, it'd be great to do.
Rolling.
We've had a couple opportunities to show Jeffrey's work. We discovered him early on and made sure to invite him immediately to NGG.
You
And
guys see that?
yep, we can definitely see it.
Okay,
Click on this
perfect.
shared show, and the work creates a response. You'll feel something immediate when you see it. You may know somebody, you may have yourself been in the military, but the effect of his work has incorporates a very important message. And we've had work purchased and donated and acquired recently by the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. So they have a large installation there in the near future. So, Jeffrey, go ahead and take it away. I'm looking forward to learning about your last year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I thought I'd just give a little insight to my art start. I'm here at Fort Irwin, down in California, at the National Training Center, and this was the very first thing that I'd ever created in the military that's related to iconography of what's around us in service. And so if you can look up in the distance, there's a bunch of painted rocks, all different types of battalions that come here and train to get authorized to leave on deployment to go to combat is what happens. And so we come here and leave our mark as a group and just talk about a little bit about who we are on these rocks. And so we actually made this in concrete and have it delivered to the site. And I installed it there in the ground. But the funny thing is, the guy to the left of me, I'm on the right here. That's the command sergeant major of our battalion. He was the one that knew that I had experience in construction before the military and was excited to kind of utilize those techniques and skills that I had moving into the deployment area. So everything's makeshift out of wood, and so we just had a wood shop that he was excited to get to use. And so he had me do things in garrison. This was one of them. The funny thing about this is we were up for 3 days on a mission before I had to install this at the very end of the month that we were there. And so I came back after being up for 3 days, didn't get any sleep. I went to a Connex and painted this in the middle of the day in the heat and spelled battalion with one T. So it was Bat Lion. So all this, beyond this, we had a picture with all the officers that came out. So there's probably like 30 people out there rotating pictures. And at one point, the XO said, "Hey, is this the Bat Lion Regiment or what are we doing here?" So I had to repaint it. Everybody came back for another photo session, but
Oh,
it was
that's
pretty
funny.
funny that,
What
yeah.
what state was this in? This is in
This is
California
in
somewhere?
California, down
Okay.
south in the desert, and it's called Port Irwin. It's a base down there that Army regiments go down there and train. So just a year ago, I was up at Pilchuck. This was kind of me just popping my head out of the foxhole after a decade of surrounding myself in this, space of, self-reflection through art. And these folks here are an amazing group of artists, super talented. I just thought I'd, pass along. If anybody's looking to see some, amazing talent in glass, just check out these names and see what they're up to. But it was great to just be embraced by them and be in a social situation where, I hadn't been for so long. So that was new for me. And, I was just really intense and trying to get work done and stay on that focus because it's Pilchuck, and people that go there, there's a lot of history. So for me, it was just like I knew I had to go there and create something that was important that could exist in life later. And so I thought I'd take you guys through that real quick and show you just some things that I was working on an idea. Um, I got to bring a lot of stuff with me in a trailer because I live just about 4 hours, 5 hours south in Portland. And so that was comforting for me because I had all my tools, everything I needed right there. And we had a couple tables. You can see we took over that place and spread out and had our thinking area, our working area. So on the left there, I had just different ideations set up and trying to find what was going to make the most sense. But what I realized is I hadn't really done any wall installations. So I was interested in trying to kind of look at myself internally and like dissect things, so break things apart. I thought, well, why don't I just take like a uniform that I wear, like my hat and glasses and top and pants and stuff, and just detract those and flatten them out and put them on a canvas, so to speak, so you can walk through these moments of time and remember these individual objects in hopes that it's like this collection of memory. And that's what I've been finding each time I work with different objects. But here's a pair of pants that I had like worked from the belt loops and split in half and tried to make it look like a interesting object, but it was also highlighting the pants. So I work with clay and put clay underneath the material, and I'll super glue the edges, work with the wrinkles, kind of use hairspray and harden up the material to then put the silicone over the top of the object I'm working with. And that's there on the left. And so on the right, there's the now version of the pants with the silicone and the master mold. So I'm preparing it to get a wax form made in that. And here's now the wax after I pour into the master mold on the right. And this point in the wax form, I really love to modify the wax, try to, introduce more things like you'll see like the blood drips or a scar. And I've done like copper elements in the wax and just gives you another opportunity in this process to, modify the work and just try to have more creative space in that moment. So that's where I'm at here. This is interesting. So it's a pretty big mold. I can't remember how many pounds it was, but it's it's 2/3 of a pair of pants essentially, down to the thigh pocket and knee opened up. And so you can see like there's a lot of dips and valleys. And when I'm working with the powder initially to create a lot of the details, so you can see like it's like a mountain range, essentially cut lines and different highs and lows. When you're installing the powder, it likes to stick to the surface when the mold's damp. So it does help to put water on the surface and guide it with the brush and paint. So there's a lot of that manipulation to detail that happens first. And so you can see now the paint's starting to form the identity with the powders laid down. And that's a pretty big process that takes some time. It's usually the first layer is the longest, just trying to make all the right decisions. And then I'll come into the left-hand side and you'll see this is how I'm building the layers on top of the powders. On the left-hand side, it's the most transparent layer that I mix the glass because it's not firing at past 1490 to melt. So it does help adding, different colors because they're kind of bonding and holding themselves together. So I use a lot of colors to try to depict those things. Similar greens, lots of transparency in the first layer, and then I'll work into opaques into the last layer to the right. Putting the mid layer for structure, and then I'll put copper wire down over the third layer, and then install more glass over the wire because it definitely helps structurally when you're breaking these molds apart. Like the torsion, tension, flex to the glass. I've broken things. I mean, there's a lot of trial and error when you're divesting these thin sheets out of these heavy molds. So that's definitely been a positive in building those things. And there's one of those amazing crucible kilns at Pilchuck. So I love working there. I thought I'd show a little video of just how that looks like me working around the mold. It's pretty heavy and have to move it back and forth as the water flows. So you can't just expect that it's going to do what you want by getting things wet. So there's a lot of it's like teamwork between you and the mold, I guess, and how that works. So you can see I'm starting. You barely see the very details in the center where I've started putting some red and orange down, but so that one looks like.
So everything you make is kind of life size because you're using life size molds.
Yeah, I think I'm missing a slide here. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, so here's another way I'll set this down, and I'm using that kiln block as like a teeter. So just finding ways to be innovative and helping the weight of things so I can focus. It does get tiresome doing that kind of movement. A lot of hyper focus for me, just paying attention to all those little grains of powder and such. Okay, we move on here. Oops. There we go. So yeah, this is so I'm kind of jumping forward into a solo exhibition I had in January. So in the fall of last year was the idea of creating this wall piece on the right hand side. But I thought I'd show you guys this video. It's a few minutes just because it gives some insight on what I'm thinking about, what this work is about, and I'll just go ahead and start it. Are we good to play, Aaron?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was challenged with many unique situations.
There may not be any audio, so you may have to talk over it, Geoffrey.
You can't hear any volume?
No, we can't. You have to share your audio on your computer in the settings.
Okay, so
should be another 3 buttons for share computer audio if you want to make it work. Else you're welcome to speak over it.
Yeah, where is that again?
It would be under your Zoom settings.
Yeah, up in the audio left-hand side?
Yeah, there should be it should be 3 buttons on the right. Under the more button, it should say share computer audio. Do you see something like that?
Button. Oh, right down at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Autoplay.
No, you're looking for put more on the bottom there.
More. Okay.
Don't see it there either.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Yes.
We'll send this in an email to everybody. So why don't you skip it?
Yeah, sure.
Or I can play it on my computer. Let me try and do it real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I should have it up. Let me get my robot. Let me take over the screen real quick. Go ahead and just stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Get up mine real quick. Thing you sent me. Let me go into share computer audio. Screen. Thank you everybody for your patience as we share.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Just had it everywhere. Let's do whatever we can do. All right, let me get the slide.
That's right. Yep, there it is.
All right, let me see if this works, everybody. You can see it?
Yeah.
Give it a work.
Veteran obsolete. When I was serving in the U.S. Army, I was challenged with many unique situations, and what I realized, transitioning back into civilian life was one of the most difficult things I had to do. The structure and people you depended on the most are now gone. As time passed, the harder it became for me to remember, process, and understand everything I did as a soldier. I fell into a realm of fractured memories. I discovered how to relate with my past by transforming military objects into tangible devices. These sculptures contain thousands of tiny glass particles bonded together in the kiln as one complete community of glass. The thin, fragile vessel provides a focal point that is different than the original object, one that may be similar to, but reconditioned to something new and unique. Working with glass is a constructive place where I unpack my life as a veteran, to collect evidence from military service and investigate how those experiences impact human life. When I am holding Army gear I used to wear or carry, these objects now act as a trigger, connecting me back into a specific memory. Some of the objects used in this exhibition are composed in a triptych format, providing a timeline and exposing the rigors of military service. For example, the rucksack bag. As you can see, all three bags change in shape, color, and size. My art seemingly finds its way of intersecting with the intangibles, seeking out mental health conflicts and locking down a stranglehold on the post-war narratives. Veteran Obsolete is a project regarding PTSD and suicide, revealing how these two have joined forces and are now destroying our nation's heroes. The fallout from suicide is emotionally heavy. How does the artist create traumatic visual landscapes for a discussion in the community? I decided to expose certain parts of the human face to help keep the person's identity in question and create an unknown soldier effect. The 22 faces you see on the wall in formation represent the daily rates of military suicide and are those who die today. I believe these evocative objects are like metaphorical tools that help pry into and open up your ability to understand.
Stop it there. I'll give you power back on the screen to continue. Geoffrey, what a powerful video. It's great you made that.
Thank you. Yeah, the statistics always get me every time. It's a 4-to-1 ratio, and then the suicide hasn't stopped. It's a tough one to swallow. So here's a 9 gallery where the.
Well, let's have you share your screen again.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
I took over for a second to make sure that we could.
I don't see the screen here.
Should be on the.
Yeah, there we go.
Button. Click on your screen again. We'll make sure
Yep.
we're good. See, this is why you send it back up to me.
Yeah. Appreciate the patience here, folks. Yeah. So can you see the screen now?
Yep, we can.
All right. So here's the 9 gallery down in Portland, Oregon, and so my undergraduate metalsmithing teacher invited me down for this opportunity. Every year they have a month where they jury in. So it's owned by a group that shows their work every month. And so each year they have this open month. They'll jury in nominate people. And so I was actually the person that had earned that spot. So this was me in January, setting up that show that you guys had saw. I thought I'd kind of walk you through the site. So here's inside, just getting the work into the area. It was great for me because I've never had an opportunity to take over a space like this and really kind of put things in a perspective for me. You know, seeing all the work at once is something that helps me really see what I'm doing. Like one object on a table and kind of going through that is hard to understand. So I had done some acrylic banners and put some, you know, my artist statement and bio and a poem and a few things just indicating some of those statistics you saw to help kind of give people insight on what they're looking at. I mean, I think you can kind of draw some conclusions, but it does help having that context there. Here's the wall with the faces. I thought it was nice to do kind of a badge presentation and really invite you to have an experience walking up to those things and seeing what that feels like. Yeah, so I made these stands just to kind of complement the room. I really like to see my work on a black surface or a black background because there's too much contrast, stark contrast between the white. You can't see the shadow line. There's a better ambiance. So it was great. I found some laminate wood that was black, put on the pedestals, helped kind of bring more of that that spirit and experience in.
Did you bring your own pedestals, or did they provide them?
I did. I made those.
Nice.
And yeah, thanks. So I was really excited. I was using white tops because that's the melamine tops. This is black melamine. So you can cut it down like wood and just set it on the insert. But just going through the room and kind of getting things spaced out enough, it was the perfect size for what I had to install there. Here's a real quick GIF of the faces. But for me, it's been a struggle. I've lost a lot of friends to suicide since getting out, even during service. So it's hard to kind of put a relationship with that. It's just something that continues to happen in our lives as veterans. And you hear the good people that come and go. It's frustrating. So how do you honor that when it's such a hard conversation to have? So I'm trying to tap into that by sharing these ideas and stories with you all. But here's a look kind of around the room again. I plan to move this show. It actually came out here into North Carolina. It just arrived. But again, there's like the back on the wall with the statements. There's the stigma statement. It was nice to have in there. Yeah, so just kind of a tour around the room again. There's all the work together. I left out a pair of boots because I've been making a lot of boots, but I really feel in the upcoming show, I'm going to add things, and I'm going to have a pair of boots to add to this in the middle on a pedestal that has some information. So each kind of like movement through the gallery space, you'll have an experience to involve yourself with that's different than the other, just understanding more about veterans. Here we are again with the triptychs, having that timeline effect and understanding of what the veteran goes through, that before, during, and after experience, and looking back on it was a way for me to kind of understand those things. Yeah, so I had a great time doing that. It's a fun little opportunity. And after that, just to actually go back, after this, I had a month to pack up and then be on the road to get to Penland in March. So I had a lot of stuff. I had left all this work behind and didn't have a chance to address it. So just recently, during the storm, I had a chance to fly back and make all that work there in the center, or the crates in the center to put the work in. Use this amazing company, Freighters and Craters. I don't know if you all heard of them, but I'd throw you a bone on them. They're a great shipping company. Got the work out just the other day. So I was happy about that. So it was just, I think recently after I got back from Glass 52, I was inspired talking with Dean Allison in there, and we're discussing Penland. And so I came back and worked on the application for like that entire month, not really knowing what was going to happen, but I had already applied to Pilchuck and was had done a residency at Museum of Glass early in the year. And so I just felt by getting out into the social construct of the art world, that would really help me get out of that foxhole I was talking about and try to surface myself into this world and go, become more available for folks. There's the trailer. I loaded this thing up. As an Army guy. So, I mean, I loaded this thing where you couldn't fit a piece of paper in it, but this is the very beginning. I put, I unloaded it 3 times because I was over the capacity limit that the trailer could haul, because I was trying to take a lot of stuff. So I had to, lose some ideas with some of the metal stands for kilns or tabletop surfaces, and just kind of build those things on the way out here, or once I got out here. But so there's me in March on my way to Penland. It was kind of a white knuckle week with all the driving. Went through a couple of snowstorms. That was wild. But so here I am at Penland. The right hand side is the barn studio, where there's 7 studios in the area, and on the kind of left hand side where there's a red roof, that's one section for the apartments. So the other section is a little further down the way. But so we all work out of here collaboratively. We have our during the summer times in the school programming, we'll have open studios like every other week. So it's a pretty vibrant scene. On the left, on the bottom, there's the view of the campus. It's a beautiful place to come. They all have all these schools have their own really unique aspects to them. So it's been fun. That's my residence there at the Wyatt. They call it the Wyatt Apartments. Inside the studio, this is just initially getting set up. I built some of these tables when I got here. The room was empty, and so we come to an empty apartment, empty studio, and facilitate that for our needs. Getting furniture, sending things here, shipping it from home, or buying things locally. A lot of trips to Home Depot, buying shelves, buying materials, finding all my source materials here, different than the East Coast, West Coast. So that was an experience, but kind of the lay of the land. It's a pretty good room. Ceilings are a little low, but I'm short, so it works for me. Just to look at all this amazing bullseye glass. I got a shipment in not too long ago, just before the hurricane. So I was happy about that. So I'll set up workstations, different areas that I can leave work and come back to them. I'm working on a master mold in silicone here on the right. This is my mold making table that I'm sitting at. I'll have a glass table. I'll have a welding area. Fortunately, I have a gallery space, storage space. So it's a great place to really expand and stretch out, and really have these creative thoughts when you move around your studio. You could leave work, come back in a few days, have a fresh set of eyes, and not interrupt having to clear off your table. And so really fortunate for that. But Glass 52. I was so we had Aaron, we had to bring some work and receive some work. So I had brought up this work with me. No, you had this work there. That's right. You had this work there, and I came up to bring some work back, right?
Yep.
So I'd sent this to the gas show. This was in actually it was the first place winner in the gas shows. I was really excited about that. And then I had the opportunity to share it during Glass 52. I'd also sent other work to you guys. And so I could only send so much. I think I probably sent 9 or 10 boxes, and I didn't send the other half of this work. So this exhibited, and it had sold to Fort Wayne Museum of Art. It was exciting to have that conversation with Charles. We just went over the work and discussed that there is also more to this work, but it's about like the group that I served with, and I was using this work as like a canvas to kind of explore and express like the people that were injured or sustained things and had things happen to them in service. The boots and the helmet and the gloves, and these things were indicating that, like shrapnel wound or a cut to the body, a gunshot wound. Just trying to put context to those experiences of what it takes to survive through these kinds of experiences. And, just the soldiers setting their gear down after surviving these wars. What does that look like? And how do you feel about those things? And so it certainly allows an opportunity to do that with yourself and others, to reflect and understand beyond just your thoughts. You can really, talk about these things out loud, and the conversations that start to come out are pretty amazing since I've been here. So I'm pretty fortunate to have this platform here at Penland to have these open studios and meet all these people. But so also won the award of the award of excellence. So I was really fortunate for that as well. It's a very amazing group of artists every year. So it's hard to imagine getting an award in that kind of crowd, but very thankful for that opportunity. It was just a good time this year at Glass 52. Moving over a couple months later in July, the work that was from Glass 51 that had sold was purchased by some collectors. And then we had this idea to discuss donating the work and how can this work be perceived in a military place, or where can veterans and military folks see this work. And so I had an opportunity to go to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and install that. This place is pretty incredible. All the active duty from all branches will come to this place in DC, and it's an art therapy program that they use, like the intentions of mask making and painting on these paper masks and paper, canvases and such, is just that to come in with a TBI injury or PTSD injury that allows you to process that through these art classes and art, art therapy regimens that they set up for the folks. Depending on your situation, it's kind of tailored individually. So it's a pretty amazing place. This is inside the gallery in the very beginning here at the Penland Barnes studio. And so I was packing up Stigma and been able to get him prepared and take up to Walter Reed. So I brought him home from the Glass 52 and made the pedestal. I made a vitrine for it. And this is here actually in Walter Reed or in Nico. And I thought I could just cruise through this. I don't know if there's just music playing, so I don't know if it matters, Aaron, if you can hear it or not. But
no, just feel free to talk over it. It seemed to stop playing though. Is it playing
yeah,
slowly?
okay, yeah, it started again. But yeah, just quickly, they have masks on the wall there. You can see off to the left-hand side. It's an open area, foyer space that has different areas to engage with. What they expose what they do there. Obviously, these masks that they're making, kind of have different information banners around that expresses like what they do there. It's a really incredible place.
Those masks were interesting. Were they like therapy
Yeah,
projects?
so I actually got some paper masks just recently and started working with making molds of them, and I'm trying to have a couple different variations of those masks to work with in upcoming classes with veterans. You see there, went to National Geographic, and so there's a lot of eyes on this recovery place in DC. It's the pinnacle of art therapy and recovery. So I was just feel honored to be a part of it. I had to think about what it meant to be there. So it's really helped me understand the world beyond what I was living in, that other people are doing these things. Other people are using art therapy or these kind of object relations to understand themselves, memory recall, like put their service back together. I mean, if you think about for one of my deployments, for example, I would leave outside of our base 2 to 3 times a day, weekly, every week, every month. It was just, you're always at risk. And so you can't remember all those situations that you're in. However, if you start to investigate and look, these elements start to reveal those secrets of what you did. So just had to take a moment to give a shout out here to Tom and Ruth Kelly for that opportunity. They're the folks that were involved in this project, as well as Master Gunnery Sergeant Christo. He's a EOD Marine veteran who had been through NICO, had been blown up a couple times, had worked with this program. And also he lives in Florida. They had been starting an art therapy program, kind of like Hot Shot for Heroes. It's called something different. I forget right now, but it's like the stuff they do at MOG in Seattle, working with veterans. So it's definitely a trend that's happening that I wasn't really aware of until getting out more into the public spaces and starting to feel relieved that others are like me. So just again, thanks to these folks that were a part of it. Really meant a lot. Yeah, so I guess I was just going to share some work that I've been putting together and trying to understand what could be interesting for folks to collect. And so I had started this is the very first series of work that I had made that took me through that process of dumping out the duffel bags and understanding what the gloves meant, understanding like what these boots meant, where I walked, what I did with my hands. Like I even put the gloves on or started to really engage with those things again and become the soldier for that moment and start to think like, wow, that was an experience that, is something that I really need to look further into because I was having an identity issue. So this is part of me doing that. And I've just recently created some new work. I started to like look towards my roots again. And when I was creating in Afghanistan, on my downtimes, I would comb the bases. We go to other places. I'd comb those bases, look for materials, scraps, things to make creative things out of to improve our environment and the morale. Um, it's around time with the places we lived at, because it was just dirt and wood and army stuff. So it wasn't too much fun. So when I came here to Penland, I started to recall like what that felt like again, to scavenge and look. I went to the iron studio and collected just stuff out of the scrap pile and tried to create something about an experience that would lend more evidence to that beyond just like a simple like construction of an armature. So this is an experience of me and or my experience with IEDs. And I was a master trainer for our battalion. I was sent away to learn a bunch of information, current information about bombs and what the enemy was doing. I had to come back to our group and we did it's called Train the Trainer, where I have this information and train the leaders about the information, and the leaders work with all the troops and disseminate that information, setting up training lanes, testing equipment, like you name it. But it was just 3 days of gathering. And so I had to go out and be an inspector in the field looking for bombs. That's what I felt my job was on the ground with our team. And so I'd found bombs like 3 days after the first that class, found a bomb and thankfully didn't detonate it and explode myself into these bits and pieces. But this is the reflection of what that was for me, the idea of just nearly reaching out and setting my weight down on a pressure plate to detonate the bomb, which was just like 2 feet to my left. And that ignition and that's, charred, the fire and the smoke coming through, just, that's what I felt it would be. And so this work was, I mean, it's pretty emotional for me to kind of get into this conversation, but so I get a little scatterbrained, but it was about that detonation traveling through the body and how could I reflect that in the work. So I thought I'm going to be a little creative with the firing process and see what I can do. So I fired this work multiple times in the kiln. The first firing was a lower setting, lower temperature, less process anneal time or a process firing time, and just to bond the glass. And I use core casts in my work, and so you really have to heat up larger works to melt the glass if there's a lot of refractory material. So initially I just bonded it together. In the second firing, I would leave it in the kiln, remove a lot of that core out so it exposed some of the glass, and then fired a second time at a longer time, and then also a hotter temperature, just to kind of give the glass a more of a melted glazy effect, rather than like a matte feature or a matte type surface.
That's really interesting,
To
Geoffrey,
enhance
because
that
I've
idea.
never seen anybody do that before.
And at the
So it's something
bottom, there's a little badge there that I started to think about, like the compilation of IEDs. They're just these components that come together and then are hidden somewhere and then detonate and end people's lives or maim them. I mean, we had 12 KAs and I think 70 some injuries. And so that weighed on me exponentially for years after service because I was the leader of this information. And so me doing this work is helping me process those situations, understanding that you're not always, it's not your fault, or, it was 3 days, or, you start to look at, okay, I give myself a little grace, because, that's what you do in these situations. You just take ownership of that. And so the idea of these little pieces were like IED devices. Like, I found these metal bits, you could put them together, take them apart, put them in different compositions. And then it's this idea of this bomb. How do I put this together in my mind? How do I relate with this? How do I share these ideas? So this was just a thought of, this is kind of the idea of what those are to me. The badge, the being in the Army, this device that can end your life. It's a difficult conversation to have. So this is me just trying to process through those things. And yeah, this is me thinking about it and what it's done to my collective thoughts. It's just been this scattered mess. I mean, it's just been a combat theater that, you try to think about and relate to. But how do you go about doing that? So each time I come up with these objects in glass, it certainly lends a new investigation to that moment, and it allows, you know, a different conversation to develop with others. You know, so the more I do this, just the easier it starts to become for understanding this as a whole. Um, and yeah, another experience about you know, this was being shot at by a sniper. I was actually trying to or hook up a vehicle that was stuck and pull it out with my vehicle. And we were in the middle of leaving after an engagement with the enemy. We had been in a firefight for a handful of hours, and so we were depreciated, taking people back to the main base. And in the middle of this situation, I was on the ground and hooking up tow shackles, and sniper was shooting at the truck, and these rounds were hitting the truck, and I could hear them getting closer, but I'm back and forth between these two vehicles and just twisted in this situation, you know, moving around. And I kept thinking, is this the opportunity? Is this the chance that, you know, I get shot? Is this next round going to hit me? And so I thought about, after leaving service, and, you know, you're diagnosed with these things, and PTSD, these other things that are going on with you. Like, how do I understand what did that to me? And so is this that situation, the initial thing that kicked it off, or that's what it is for me to look at that microscope and process these moments and say, I mean, yeah, that very well could be why some things, you know, affect me because of this situation. I don't know, but let's look at this further. That's kind of me just delving into the idea. And again, here's like some found objects. These are screws from the railroad just down the way. They're, you know, replacing stuff, replacing parts. So there's like piles of these things, and it just made sense to feel like I was back in that idea of creating from the very beginning at this place here at Penland. Just gives me an opportunity to feel connected again to those moments. And yeah, that's kind of what this work is starting to do for me now, just getting back to the roots of things. I got a busy schedule coming up. Over there on the left at Touchstone Center for Craft. It's up in Pennsylvania, in the lower, kind of the southwest region of the state. I don't know if y'all have heard of that place, but they're really excited about doing veteran programming at the school. And they contacted me after the auction here, and invited me to come do a solo exhibition. And they're planning to launch veteran programming at the school. So there'll be, you know, classes for veterans, led by veterans, that are full of veterans. And I'm excited about that. I'm not sure how that's going to look next week. I'm headed up there to start collaborating with these folks. And the show that I just shared with you guys, it'll be heading there. And I plan to add more features to the show, just kind of open it up a little further and have a few more experiences to talk about. And then I'll also be teaching a class there during the show time in the midsummer there in June. It's a 5-day mask making class. It's kind of an identity reflection with this mask making idea. Same thing with Aramont. They're also, you know, it's trending. I feel there's other places beyond like art installation or art groups that are doing these things. There's nonprofit things that are groups that are helping veterans. So I'm excited these schools are wanting to get involved next year in Veterans Weekend. They're having a 4-day opportunity for vets where there'll be 4 different instructors, or 4 or 5 different instructors, and a handful of probably 50 vets coming on scholarships or opportunities to have an art therapy, you know, art opportunity. So that'd be great. And then again at Penland, I'll be working on some veteran programming coming up in in 2026 or potentially 2027. Similar to what these schools are interested in too, just having opportunities for veterans. So I'm looking forward to that. You know, that's just still, I have a proposal I'm turning in at the end of the year for this. And so just trying to understand the needs here for these schools and trying to meet those things with what they're asking. So it could be a great opportunity to really convey what I've been up to. And yeah, that's all I got for you so far. I mean, got a lot of stuff to share, but thought that would just be.
Well, thank you, Geoffrey. That's incredible.
I think I turned my volume way down.
Go ahead and stop sharing your screen. That was very enlightening to get a glimpse into what your life's been like. And I'm glad that you're getting the hang of this, man. You're getting used to what it's like to not just, share your story, but learn about your career as an artist and get opportunities out there with others. I mentioned earlier that you're the first person I know that has tweaked pate verre and tried to burn it in the kiln to add some
Yeah.
interesting aesthetic to your work, which is exciting. But thank you again. I have a couple questions for you though.
Yeah.
With these classes you do for with the masks and pate verre, I
Mhm.
know they're directed to veterans, but pate verre is a technique. Could you teach like a day class, like put together a plan to just kind of teach generic people like myself who have never done pate verre,
Yeah,
possibly to
I
do
think
that?
yeah, I think the important thing about pate verre is understanding the tools and the material and how you push it to the surface. Like it's a lot of um, understanding the movement of the material and then what that does, how the material looks in the end. So it can certainly be something you do in the moment, but leading up to making that part of the refractory mold, there's a bunch of work that goes into that, So having just the available molds. However, I've been doing something with low fire technique where you can use the bullseye molds they sell. They're the different type of utilitarian molds, plates, bowls,
Mhm.
different types of things, and you can pack directly on those surfaces and fire at a low temperature setting. And so I've done bowls and different things like that. But that's a great way to just sit down and do the pate verre work to the mold, and then you could probably relate those techniques once you get into a refractory mold and mold making. So there's certainly something we could do in a day.
Yeah, let's continue that conversation because I think
Yeah,
it'd be a good opportunity for people to know about you and your work while participating a little bit in the technique, not, high end, but just a little bit.
sure.
Another question for you, like where do you go? Like, let's say you're a veteran, you're trying to seek help. Do you add this content to the paperwork or the postings by your work? Where do people go to have this dialogue to start talking? Even though I know it's hard for many officers and people in the military.
Yeah, that's kind of the elephant in the room, I feel. Where would they go? I mean, I think usually just understanding the system that the veterans work with is the VA, trying to go to the
Mhm.
VA, seek out a counselor. However, nonprofit organizations are always advertising things for veterans to get involved with, retreat opportunities. And that's hopefully what I can create here at Penland, is a 2 week like opportunity where veterans can come and be exclusive to making work as an artist and learn how to become an artist. Um, I'm trying to revamp my website, have better opportunities to go there, and a veteran can get on board and have some understanding of what I'm doing there by
Mhm.
seeking out the information on the website. So I'm working with some marketing folks now on revamping that. That's kind of on the agenda right now. Is that very question? So
Yeah, it's good to
it's a
know
good one.
there's thoughts going into it. Like people dive every topic I know on Reddit, just trying to figure out who to have answers to their questions. It'd be nice to have at least a direction to put them, just to start the conversation between what you're doing between, the military life and the PTSD and art, and just saying, here's your starting point. Like I was thinking, like, and this is between us, it's just an 8 question questionnaire. Do you feel like this? Do you think this would help? And next step kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you have to put, trial and error, have some practical exercise, see if these things make sense. But things like this definitely are opportunistic too,
Mhm.
that you can send a video, or that's what I was hoping to do with that video. But, that's just the very first one I ever tried to put together. So maybe other videos and things like that can have, an easier extension to just send out to folks. But if people can help me with that, I'd love to. I mean, I think
Yeah,
I've had conversations with Chris about just connecting with your community. How do you go about doing that in these ways? So that's always a good one to ask.
yeah, and you're mentioning the concept about the VA being there in some shape or form locally or in a bigger picture to give people direction. But it's nice that you're out there. You're becoming a leader in this particular world, being the fact you have the military background and you dove 2 feet into art. And I hope more people reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love to try this." Period. Great to hear what you're doing.
I certainly feel this upcoming Touchstone exhibition is going to be a good opportunity. They're bringing in VA culture from there. They're having a therapist come down. They're bringing the community that's there to be involved with this, and they're really planning to roll this out. So I'll definitely gain some more insight next week when I go to Touchstone and start collaborating with them on this. But I'm just so grateful that folks like yourself and Touchstone and are just lending this platform to share, because how else would I be doing this, other than my own social media platforms or doing or not doing residencies or something. It's a necessary thing, I feel. And for this show, it's definitely available. The idea of making this was I've been asked for years since I started making glass, and the military glass. Like, how is your work traveling? Is there a traveling show? How do we see this? And I laughed at that, because I mean, to me, I'm thinking that's a huge budget. I couldn't afford doing that. Just sending work, it starts to add up when you're starting out. But what I've realized is that mission is still a part of this journey I'm on, that creating this opportunity that can be available to send to different locations, to send to folks, to share with their communities. I don't know if that's a thing. I did ask you about this a little while ago, but at least there's an opportunity to put it in a collective space, and then potentially move it again and share it again somewhere else. But it's definitely ready to move around and ready to share.
Yeah, the idea of what you're doing at the next upcoming project, getting that content together. We say in the putting like an idea of a package project, because the people
Yeah,
who are in your world are everywhere, and
yeah,
it's an
absolutely.
amazing niche market that I think needs more attention. And I feel the institutions can be taken a little more seriously now and then. They do so much fun, light, warm-hearted artwork, which is great because people like to feel good, but there's also the people that need the message, man.
Yeah, it's definitely necessary. I mean, I feel that being here at Penland and speaking with just the general public, the board members, just folks that come in and out of here, that's always a thing that inspires them to like kind of shake up the margarita again. Look at,
Mhm.
maybe I need to talk to my friend again. Maybe I need to have another conversation with somebody that a loved one for them, because they're seeing what's going on in real time with me, sharing the extension of those things. And it's just another veteran, another family, another situation like me. I'm just actually accessing art and using the art to share it, versus talking about it or making t-shirts, or let's
Mhm.
do other things to do this type of engagement. But I think it's just, as a collective community throughout the United States and other countries, we're understanding, we're trying to make an understanding of who people are after the military service and what happened to the care program, because they have a, my mom would always tell me this, that they take care of you so well coming in, they prime you up to be the best soldier, but they have no exit strategy for these people leaving. They just sweep you out with the first broom. You're on your own, and you're trying to sort your life out in the system that's already in shambles. And so, by getting together with nonprofits, or just like I was saying, mentioning these organizations, that's been the trending area. That's been us helping each other. And the more that all these different communities can understand that this is people from everywhere, from those communities that collectively come to the larger community of military,
Mhm.
all race, color, and creed are there and serve. So that's what the America I see. And so everyone has to be a part of this conversation in my book, because we're all invested. It's our country. you know um Messy politics get, I understand that, but for me, I see it as a collective group. We're all in this together. We suffer, we rise, we fall, but it's the need of caring for others once we're in this place. This is what saved me, is art, to be
Mhm.
honest.
It's great to
Yeah.
hear, man. So, with that being said, there there is a price list of available work to support Jeffrey as he continues to create. I have available at the gallery. It's in the chat right now. If you don't have it, feel free to send me a message. I'll send you put 5 works together for this talk, which are priced very reasonably in my opinion. So feel free to check that out. Um, Jeffrey, it's an honor to have you join me today. Thank you again for being part of NGG and sharing your work with the world and continuing your message. It's an honor to work with you. Thank you all for joining me. It's
Yeah,
so
thanks
great to
for the
have you
lunch.
all.
Appreciate it.
It is a blessing to have you all as friends of the gallery, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And I hope to see you all in Sarasota, Florida. It's going to be an amazing time for Glass Coast Weekend. Have a great holiday, everybody, or have a great weekend, everybody. And we'll see you all next week. Bye, ya.